Much for those who are coming back for day 2 of the lunch break series. And for those of you who are new to the series, my name is Daphne LeBlanc, and next to me is Phyllis Khare. She is a co-founder of Social Media Manager School. She's also my mentor, which I always have to throw in there, and I think it makes her blush, but that's okay. I myself am an owner of a boutique social media marketing agency called Cafe and Laptop, and I also have a group for entrepreneurs called the Social Business Cafe. Today, we're going to just jump right on in, and we're going to be talking about the next part of this whole real talk working from home, and it is called the business journey. And there's a lot of conversation that we can have about the business journey, but I'm going to have Phyllis lead this part of the conversation. And then we're definitely going to take questions and things like that. So on to you, Phyllis.
Well, I'm just really enjoying this, and I want to give everybody some quick actionable things they can do right now, no matter where they are in their business journey. And you just have to keep in mind, literally, that where you start is not where you end up. And definitely wherever you are right now, it's not the end of the story. It's absolutely not the end of the story. So you have to kind of keep these things in mind and have some perspective on the whole thing. And being as old as I am, I have big perspective on all the things.
Not old.
I'm not old, but I'm old in terms of internet stuff. And that's just real talk. That's just real talk right there. I get real quick, when Amy and Andrea and I wrote the book, Amy was in her 30s, Andrea was in her 40s, and I was in my 50s.
Wow.
Okay, so we have all moved on into those time frames.
Phases of life.
Yes. And we shared a lot, but we also had very different experiences in our business journey. From that book going forward, everyone had a different trajectory, right? Everybody did. And they fit for the person who was going through it. And so this is the thing. Don't compare yourself with somebody else's journey. Never compare yourself with anybody else's journey, because they're not you. You have your own path in this. So I want to give you some things real quick right off the top. If you are completely new to working for yourself or working at home, Daphne has this great resource that we built through the school. It's called a quick start checklist. And this thing just takes you from 0 on up, basically, right? It starts from getting super clear on what it is you feel like you have to offer to the world. What are you in service to in the world? And it helps you kind of go through that. And then the next thing, it's like you got to get your services and your pricing and all that stuff together enough to be able to take on a new client, right? Or to sell that product, whatever that is. So you get super clear on what it is you're giving to the world, and then you get super clear on the pricing and how you're going to present that. And then you have to do this. This is where the business journey conversation starts. You have to decide what's the best, and in the beginning, I would say the easiest way for you to market yourself and your services. Now, that can be either online, it can be totally offline, it can be a mix of that. I mean, there's so many different ways to go from that point of how you're going to market this. And again, don't compare yourself to other people. Do what works for you. And that can take some testing, right? Lots of testing. You try something, it doesn't work. You try something else, it doesn't work. You try something else, and it works finally, right? So don't be afraid to test. Nobody's going to throw you an internet timeout or anything if you don't do it right, if you don't color within the lines or whatever. Just do what works for you. And then, but if you enjoy being on screen, like if that's your thing, then run with that, because right now being on screen works for the algorithms. So just run with that if that's you. If that's not you, don't do it. Just don't do it. You will be so uncomfortable and so unhappy in your own business journey. So just don't do it. Now, if you're in the middle, you know, and you don't quite know if you are or aren't comfortable, then try it. You might find it brings out your inner entertainer. I don't know. It might happen. So if that works for you. If that doesn't work for you, you know, you can think about all the, like we advise this in the school, that if you don't have a client yet on your business journey, think about helping the nonprofits that you love. They always need some help. Go and volunteer your social media or your VA or your design or whatever it is that you do. Volunteer using that and see if you can start to build a business around what you love to do. And always do that in exchange for a testimonial, and always have like a clear boundary of when you start and when you stop. That's really, really important. And then as you continue that journey, now we're still on this checklist, by the way. We're still on this checklist. It's going to help you get through this. Start thinking about those things that you really love to do that also overlap with what people are asking you for, right? So it's really important not to just do things because you love them. That's a hobby. You need to be in service to people. When I was an entertainer, it was like the number one golden rule. You're not up there to entertain yourself. You're up there to entertain your audience. It's all about the audience. And the same thing goes true for our business. It's all about your customers. It's taking care. You're in service to your customers. So you have to flip that around sometimes. I remember the first time I had to think in terms of flipping it around. I need money, I need money, I need money. And I had to turn it around into how can I help, how can I help, how can I help? Mm-hmm. And as soon as I turned that around, then the money came. So, you might be in that spot in your business journey where you're just like, I need the money, I need the money. Well, the way you get the money is helping somebody get what they need. Mm-hmm. So flip the whole thing around and do that. So back to the checklist for that little aside there. And we're big on this. I mean, being a social media manager is a super easy way to take all those skills that you have and turn them into a business you love. So, we're all in on that. So if you're interested in that, talk to Daphne. She's got tons of experience with this. And then network and mastermind with people who understand your business. That's big. We talked a lot about community yesterday, and we'll talk a lot about it all week long. But if you have a community or a tribe around you that can support you and help you sort through things and answer your questions, then seriously, you're blessed. And so try and find those spaces for you. And if you're completely new to everything, if you live in the United States, I mean, just going to the Small Business Administration website, the SBA.gov, they just really try to make it easy for you, right? They just show you the steps and show you how to get through all the things. And that's a great way if you're starting from zero. Maybe you've been in corporate forever and you have no idea. Trust me, you need to have some support when you build a business, because between all the requirements to get a business bank account, to getting a tax number, to getting what's the actual structure of your new business? Is it an LLC? Is it a C Corp? All the things. You really need to go step by step with that. SBA can do wonderful things for you. Also, there's this fabulous article that I'm going to hopefully get the link up here, and we'll make sure it gets in the comments and all that. Mm-hmm. It's called 15 Actionable Steps to Start Your Business in the United States. And it's just like step by step. Do this, click it off. Do this, click it off. And it's in the correct order of doing them, which is really important, because getting a business bank account is 7th on the list.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah. So there are things you have to do before you go to the bank and try to open up a bank account that's a business bank account. And so you really need to be educated about how this whole thing works. And so you just go through that, and we'll make sure those get in there. Also, I have links for those of you, if you're watching from the UK, and also if you're watching from Australia. Some of our members helped me sort through all the places that you can get good business advice in the UK and Australia, and they gave me the good links for that, and I got all those for you too. And I got all the things out I was hoping to get out at the very beginning. So that's good.
I wanted to also mention a resource that you and I talked about is your local SCORE chapter.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times people think starting a business, yes, there are going to be investments. And I think tomorrow we talk about some different investments,
Mhm.
but you also have to have certain things established. And the local SCORE chapter actually provides mentoring, I believe, for free,
Yeah.
where you could meet with another business person. And it tends to be someone who's had a lot of experience in business, because I know I filled out an application, my time, I just couldn't commit to the time, but they ask you how long you've been in business. So they want to actually find mentors that have been through this process. So
Yeah.
that's actually another great resource that people sometimes forget is around.
I know there's a lot of resources. So never think that you're alone on this business journey, no matter where you are. At the very beginning, maybe you've been doing your own business on the side for a couple of decades. There's always something you can add into that to help you grow your business. And, on the far end of that, like if you've been in business for decades, then probably if your business isn't where it needs to be, then a business coach is where you need to be at that point. But getting a high-end business coach when you just get started is a huge expense that maybe you don't need at the moment. So that's the point about the business journey, is that there are all these good things, but they're really appropriate at certain times and not appropriate at other times. So, you have to kind of like go through the steps, and it's a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I really want to highlight that. And I like how we name this the business journey. And then we said where you start is not where you end. It really isn't. We're always evolving, and our businesses are evolving. And even the way we work from home is evolving, because we're learning things about ourselves. We're learning things about our business. We're learning things about the way we work. Because especially if you're coming from a 9 to 5, and then you're going from a 9 to 5 that's very structured. You're in the morning, you wake up, you make breakfast, you pack up lunch. If you have kids, you send the kids off. If you're taking public transportation, you know that you have to get to the train station at a certain time, etc. When you're working from home, all those things don't exist anymore. They really don't. So it literally is a journey. It's a process to figure out, how does it work for me? And then how does it work for your business, and how does it work for the growth of your business? And so I think, one of the things you mentioned was the SBA. We talked about SCORE. We talked about networking and masterminding. And yesterday we talked about connecting with people and making sure you have. So it's not always having to look for a mentor or someone who can teach you. Sometimes it's looking for someone you can connect with. And that's also, I think, very, very important in this business journey.
Yeah, it's interesting that it is a thing that, especially in our industry, for social media managers and consultants, that it can be a very lonely place to be. And we don't want that for you ever, to be lonely in this business. And sometimes people go to cafes or co-working spaces, like we talked about yesterday, to kind of combat that. Having online mastermind groups or coaching groups, those are all good things to do. But the thing about it is sometimes in your business journey, those are good things to start with. Yep. If you're unsure of what's going on. And then your business might get really, really busy, and you might not have time for those tribes and those people. And then you find yourself so busy that you're beginning to miss that connection. And that's when you need to connect back in, find a tribe, find a mastermind at that point, maybe, and then do that. And a lot of people too, when they're building their business, sometimes they start building business through online means instead of offline means. And so sometimes you have to throw one of those back in there so that you're not lonely through the whole process. But go out and have fun. I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself there. I'm like looking at myself. It's like, go out and have fun. Talk to people. And for those of you who are more introverted and are just happy to be at home, it's cool. Do you. It's cool. Do you. But still, sometimes go out, especially if you're trying to build your business, and tell people what you do. That's the way it works.
And I think also, Phyllis, part of the business journey is that in making those connections, you don't even know where your next business is going to come from. You don't know where your next referral is going to come from.
I am the queen of that. I can't tell you. Seriously, my first job ever came because I picked up the phone and answered a phone call. Somebody, hey, I heard about you and so and that. How about doing this? And that phone call, which I did not solicit, that I did not network for, that I did not do, started my whole music career.
Wow.
So that was a 20-year gig basically from a phone call. The book deal. Hey, Phyllis, I just recommended you to my editor to write a book. Out of the blue. I was just doing my thing online, and I got the phone call. So that's happened so many times in my life, I can't tell you. Oh, I got a message the other day. Hey, you should talk to so-and-so because this thing is happening, and this will be a good thing for what? And I'm like, out of the blue. So you can't discount those, but you can't sit back. I mean, you could sit back and just wait for them to come in. But
you could sit back, wait for them to come, and then you'll question, how come this person is doing better than me, or how come I'm not getting anything? And I think that's a really important piece that you said when it came to the business journey, is you have to try a lot of things, but trying something does not mean I tried it once. That is not trying. That means you just check to see if it works. Oh, okay, let me go live. And that's it. Okay, I now know I can go live, but you haven't built any kind of consistency around it to even figure out if it's going to pan out. I mean,
absolutely. This is YouTube. Okay, this is YouTube in a nutshell, right? Because a lot of people, they'll go over to YouTube and I'm going to get so much and not until you build an audience. And how do you build an audience? Consistent uploading with great content, with something that people are searching for consistently, not just 3 times. And I'm talking to myself again here. I like to test things out on YouTube. So I have done things that I did for 3 times. I have things I did for 15 times. And I have things I did 10 times. And that 10-time one took off and has given me, close to 500,000 views overall on my channel. So again, just like you said, you have to test, but you have to have some consistency with the test. It's not just dipping your toe in the pool. You have to kind of jump in and swim around a little bit.
And I think there's something that you always tell us, and you have to think about when you are on this business journey and you're working from home and you're choosing to be a social media manager. That's the example I'm going to give, because that's what I am. That's what Phyllis is. So for us, it's much easier to talk about that, right? So as a social media manager, I have to manage clients, right? Some people have to not only manage clients, but then you need to manage your contractors or your freelancers or whatever. So now you're also managing a team, right? But then you have to make sure that you're doing things to bring in money. So I know this is probably one of the hardest things for me, and this is how I've also seen my journey evolve, my business evolve, is that I had to figure out what is my bread and butter. So if managing clients is my bread and butter, I have to make sure that I'm making time for that, right? I have to be doing the work for my clients. But at the same time, I want my journey to evolve. I have a vision of how I want my business to be. And so I have to make sure that I also think about what is it that I need to do to get my business where I want it to be, and making sure that I treat myself. Oh my goodness, Phyllis is going to laugh because she tells us this all the time. I have to treat myself like a client. I know, it's crazy. Treat myself like a client, because I will not be able to get where I need to go if I'm not doing that.
Right. And if you're treating yourself like a client, would you be posting on Facebook every day? Would you be posting on Twitter every day? Would you be putting things up on LinkedIn? Would you be connecting with people on LinkedIn? What are the things you do for your client? I have many times just, if I have a task list of things I'm doing for my clients, I just add my business in there. So if I'm creating 10 images for a client, then I'm creating 10 images for me. And sometimes, you can trick yourself into doing this. Just change the name of your business on, on your list, right? Oh yeah, that crazy person I'm work with, and whatever. I have to
He
do
never
this work for
answers me
them.
back anyway.
He never talks to me. I mean, geez. So I need to fire that client. Would you? I mean, you would fire yourself as your social media manager if you weren't doing those things for
Mhm.
your client, right? Your
Yep.
client would fire you.
Yep.
So you can't fire yourself. You have to like step up and like do the work, right?
Mhm.
It's hard sometimes. It's that whole carpenter's cabinet, the
I thought it was the shoemaker. The
maker's shoes.
shoemaker. The shoemaker. Yes, because the shoemaker's kids never has shoes.
Right. My sister always used to complain because she has a husband who builds homes, and it took her like 15 years to redo her kitchen. It's like that's the thought that always sticks in my head. But the point being is that this is one of the biggest challenges in our industry is marketing yourself. A long time ago, I heard the number that you should spend 40% of your time marketing your
Mhm.
business. Now, time is a little bit different now,
Mhm.
right? It used to be 40% of your time on the phone saying, hey, do you need my stuff? Hey, do you need my stuff? Right? Now it's the tweets or the posts or the conversations or the DMs or the whatevers that you're doing to build your business, 40% of your time. So you can think about what you did today and you can say, okay, well, I spent 60% on my client work and 40% promoting who and what I am going forward and getting new business to keep that funnel going. Is that the way I'm spending my time? And sorry, I'm sniffling. I got grandkids in the house. I think they're bringing it home. Jeez.
Well, in Texas, I believe it is now allergy season. So I can
Oh,
tell everyone is starting to have a little something. And I'm the only one in the house, knock on wood, who does not have allergies yet.
oh, good. Well, hang in
Yes.
there. Hey.
Okay. So one of the things we said was where you start is not where you're going to end.
Yeah.
And there was a time way back when, even before Phyllis, I know she's like,
Before Phyllis, is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing.
there is something before Phyllis. We actually we grew up to believe that you go to school, you graduate, from graduation, this is the job you take that job up until you retire, right? Because you have a pension plan, you have this.
Right.
Now, that was literally the journey. And then when you retired, that's when you got to live life. That's when you actually got to do all of the things, right? Now, the truth is, you have a lot of people now, and this is where the real talk comes in. A lot of people now who are like, there's more to life than that. And that's why they're choosing to work from home and they're choosing to do all of these different things. I have one person that I see, she's on the call, and she is an event planner. She works from home. She doesn't need to have an office to plan events. Guess what? If she had an office, I'll be honest, I think it would be a wasted space because what is she doing throughout the day? Going to other people's locations to plan an event, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But what's really interesting is that even that has evolved. She started out doing one thing, and I know her, so I'm gonna call her out a little bit. She started out doing IT. That's what she was doing. And then from IT, she wanted to do her own business. From doing her own business, she put in some of those skills into doing something, and she realized that she was interested in event planning. And then, but even that, when you start your business, even that evolves because it goes from I want to do this kind of event planning to as you are doing the things consistently, I want to now do event planning for this industry with these people. And that's always going to evolve. As a social media manager, okay, I started out
I love this story. I have to say, I'm going to read to you what I have is your little like beginning of your thing. Daphne was a communication specialist at a large scale philanthropic organization when she decided to stay home and care for her child. Now that sort of encapsulates like a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
but you were working, you were like doing the thing, and you said, you know what, I'm staying home for the kid.
And she was my last. She was my
Yeah.
last. And Phyllis, that was the last thing that I did before like I started
Before,
my
right,
own business, right? There's a whole lot of other things before that.
right.
But there's something that happens. I'll be honest, I was pregnant with my last one and I was going back and forth. She was actually the hardest pregnancy that I had, but it was just like I remember posting up on Facebook and I said, "Oh, I'm so sad. I'm going to be heading back to work." And my cousin from Canada was like, "But you just had the baby." And I was
Mm,
like, "Yeah, and mind you, I stayed home for a long period of time because this philanthropic organization had amazing benefits, right?
right, right.
So I stayed home longer than the normal, what is it, 6 weeks, I think is what you get here in the US.
Mhm.
I think I stayed home for 3 months and I was in tears. I was so depressed because I'm like, wow, I'm leaving. This is my last one. Like I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids, knocking on wood, as you can feel. I knew I wasn't going to have any more kids, but it was just like, just all of these things happening. My parents were coming close to retirement. So I knew that they would still be involved, but not the same as with the other two. My husband's parents had already retired and had moved off. My brother was moved away. So it was just like, man, what's left? Like, it's just, there's got to be more. And it's interesting because one of the things that you talked about was making sure you connect with people. Well, someone that I had connected with at that organization asked me to be the digital marketing strategist for their documentary film. That's how I got that. I wasn't working on it. I didn't say anything, but it fueled the fire for me. It was like, yes, this is it.
So you had positive ROI from a Facebook post.
Yes, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Positive life ROI, right? Very positive. And I have to tell you, there's so many people who have a journey like this that wrap around family or having kids,
Mhm.
right? And how now just the opposite can happen too. You
Mhm.
can be at home with kids and you have three and you say, you know what, I need to go back to work.
I'm done.
I'm done. Let's. The nanny is next. I'm going back to work, or to do a variation of that, and that's totally cool. I mean, whatever. Again, I feel like a real broken record with this. Whatever works for you, you should do this without comparing yourself to anyone. But the option of working at home and doing something like being a social media manager can really do the trick. I mean, there are so many people who started out just even maybe 3 or 4 years ago with young kids at home, and they said, you know what, I can take on 3 or 4 clients, and I will be making the same amount of money that I was making in my job, and I can be here for the kids. I can go to school for the kids. I can do all the things. So let's give it a try. And they did that for a few years until their kids are a little bit older, and now they have options. They can work. I'm thinking of someone in mind here. I have somebody at
I,
top
I,
of
kn-
my mind.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and they just all of a sudden they have a lot of freedom and they're thinking, well, maybe I need to have a bigger impact in a particular industry or community or tribe. And the way to do that is actually go and work inside their marketing team and their business. And that worked for them. That journey
Mhm.
between not working at all, working at home with young kids, and then going to a business because the kids are older, you know, again, this is not the end of the journey for her.
Mhm.
She might do this for 5 years and then say, you know what, I have a tremendous amount of experience now. I'd like to be a consultant for the industry. And if I just had 3 clients, I could make the same amount of money I was making working 9 to 5. And I think I would like that freedom now. So it's usually freedom, time freedom,
Mhm.
um, financial freedom, and family freedom. There's a huge movement of people right now who work out of their RV and they just, go across the country, and as long as they have a good internet, they're doing all the things. Social media marketing, they're doing VA work, they're doing image creation, they're doing copywriting, they're bloggers, they're doing all the things that they can do online, but they're location independent.
Mhm.
And that's another freedom of being able to pick up and go wherever you want. And your journey might have some few years of that.
Mhm.
And how cool is it that we have the technology that we can do that now? I mean, you couldn't do that in the 80s, baby.
And that's, you're right. And it was unheard of actually in the 80s. Like even for me, I mean, I feel like I started when people were already doing it, you know?
Yes.
And when I met, there are people that I talk to and I find out they've been doing this for like 30 years. I'm like, hold on, you've been working from home for 30 years? I didn't even know that existed. Like, and it wasn't because I felt like they were older than me. I felt like, holy cow, you had this treasure chest of information and you never shared it with anyone. How could you do that? That's selfish, not letting us know you can do this.
Tell us the things. You
Yeah.
know, and even I have always worked for myself from the age of 19.
Wow.
But during that time, there was a section of time where I worked for a school. I was the music teacher for the school. But I was the director of the department. So I got to, you know,
Mhm.
I smushed all the classes in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I didn't have to work on Monday and Friday. And then I worked out a deal because I had this side hustle performing all over the state. So I would book all of those either on a Monday or a Friday. So I had this sort of modified job thing for almost 20 years. And in terms of that, this is interesting in terms of our work journeys. So I did that. I was an entertainer. I was a curriculum designer. I taught a lot. I did all those things. I have the spangly shoes to show for it too. So, and then I packed all that stuff up. Honestly, teaching fourth grade boys just about destroyed me. So I put everything in a Tupperware, put it in the basement, and I moved to the beach. And I lived on the beach for 2 years. I walked on the beach every morning, every afternoon for 2 years. And I fell into online marketing. I built my own e-commerce store. I started representing these high-end, amazing American craftspeople from all over the country. And I had this beautiful e-commerce store way before it was a thing,
Mhm.
and way before people were comfortable buying things online, which was its demise.
Mhm.
But it was beautiful. It was really lovely. But what I learned during that time opened up my ability to be able to do social media.
Mhm.
And so when that closed, I was just like sharing all the things and doing all the things and building websites and all of that. And that's how I got the book deal.
Mhm.
So it's an odd journey, but it was my journey. So your journey might not look like anybody else's journey. And I personally, I think some of these journeys are very interesting. I know yesterday we mentioned Joanne, who was a scuba diving
Yep.
instructor, downhill ski coach, and skydiver before she started working for a company where she was working on their LinkedIn situation inside a corp. And now she has her own business and she helps other people on social media, not only on LinkedIn. She's very good on LinkedIn, but on all the social things. And so, what an odd journey that is for her, right? And another one I think is really funny is if you're in social media manager school, you know who Liz is. And Liz, I love this. Liz was a consumer behavior researcher. Can you see that? At a marketing research firm. And then she decided to stay home and be a mom at home and build her business that way. So a consumer behavior researcher. Isn't that like the perfect thing to do before you go into social media? It's because you get what people want, you get how they want it, you understand the terminology that they're attracted to. I think it was a brilliant first step for a social media consultant.
It's funny because I can see why, like, she's such a great blogger. I don't know why that it just because she knows exactly what to give them. Like, okay, do this, do that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny where people start, where they go, and how they end up. Now, thinking ahead to the future for a lot of people, 2020 is going to be very interesting for a lot of reasons. But as far as working online, all the trends are showing that more and more and more people are working at home,
Yep.
either as a freelancer or small business owner or at home for a corp, right? So, but more and more people will be working at home. And so this whole idea of a home office is going to be just like normal. It's going to be normalized in the next few years. It won't be an unusual, out of the ordinary kind of a thing. So the technology will be geared for that. The way in which people present things to people will be, I think, a little less corporate and more rounded in terms of the marketing that they do for people. And I do think that the time freedom that people have will allow for better distribution of social reach. For example, right now, if I'm trying to reach a certain demographic, I have to know, well, when are they taking their lunch break?
Yep.
When are they offline? When have they put their kids to bed yet? Is that a good time right after that? So that is sort of like a standard thing. But as more and more people work at home, and if some of these people are in your demographic for an audience, you have to think, well, if they're working at home, there's all sorts of times they're going to take their lunch. They can take it any time they want, right? They can have Twitter up in the corner all day long and see things going on, that there's no best time to reach my audience anymore. So that sort of thing might change in 2020. And I don't know if anybody's thinking ahead to 2020. We haven't even had Thanksgiving yet.
Look, I have been thinking about 2020, and I'm thinking about like the end of 2020 already. So,
yeah, we won't go there.
But I wanted to share a statistic because I remember I had pulled it up. And this is something that's really interesting, that last year, so 2019, so we're already in 2019 going to 2020. There are 35% of Americans are working from home.
Yeah.
And they said that is increasing with time. Yeah. Now, the other interesting factor is almost 47% of millennials work from home.
Yes.
So remember how I said before, there's a shift generationally when, my parents were growing up, or my parents were growing up, you stayed at the same job for 40 years, you retired.
Right.
And then when my parents were raising us, they worked until 5 o'clock and then it was over. Like, you don't call them at 5:01. 5:01, they've already clocked out. They're out the door. There is no, call me on my cell phone for anything. There wasn't that. And then the generation after that, and then I think about even my generation, so the generation after that, I would say is probably between you and my mom, right, Phyllis? And then that was kind of I feel like the generation where we slowly started incorporating work almost all the time.
Yes. And also, it was where people started to think about having more than one career.
Yep.
That's where that generation changed there, from my parents to the boomers, the younger boomers.
Yes.
I'm a young boomer.
Yeah, because you're a young boomer, and that's very different than my parents who are older boomers.
Right. And I can have several careers. And so far, I consider myself having 3. Mm-hmm. I was a mother, mm-hmm. and I consider that career. Mm-hmm. I was a music educator and entertainer, mm-hmm. and now I'm an author, consultant, whatever the heck I am now. That one. Okay. So those are 3 solid careers for me. And I have room, I believe, in my lifetime for 2 more.
Yep. And you do. And that's a shift. And then you come to mine where I really feel, I tell people all the time, I said, I feel like I've kind of destroyed the way things are, because we went from you guys, the younger baby boomers who recognize that you have a potential to do more than one thing in your life. Imagine that, more than one thing. How dare you? Right? to now, my generation, we got into this workforce habit that we're on all the time. And I get that it's a global world, but we have now become that we are on all the time. And I say that it's a bad habit because from my first child, my second child, and now my third child, like, how does my child who doesn't have Facebook know, oh, mommy, are you going to post that on Facebook? Are you going to upload that onto YouTube? How long is that going to take? Don't forget to tell them to subscribe. She's not even on those things, right?
That's
But
great.
but generationally, that's what has happened. But I think that now we're at this stage that people are like, I want to take my time back. And in order to
Yes.
take my time back, I need to work from home because at least now I can be on in a client's mind or in a employer's mind all the time, but I still have the ability to do the things that I need to do. Because if I was in the office, and there's one company that I work for, guess what? The executives had like these blow up these blow up mattresses. I was like, what is happening here? And why is this okay? That's not okay.
It's
So
not
now
okay.
we're transferring to this work from home place. And I think that that's really nice. And I'll be honest, there are times that I'm on a call with a client and I am making dinner because I know that the only time they had available was 6:30, Central Standard Time. And I need to be on this call because it's important. But you know what? I'm okay with taking that call because I'm able to make dinner for my family.
There was so much in that. Oh my gosh, so many things. I just want to tease apart just a couple of things. One is that you might find your own personality is that you need to close it up at 5
Mhm.
in order to be with your family undistracted. You might find that it's easier for you to have more breaks during the day to do family things and incorporate this business as you're going along. So again, how cool is it we have all these options? The one problem that we have is doing the thing that doesn't fit for you.
Mhm.
So if you are the kind of person who needs a solid, hard stop, but you're comparing yourself to other people or you're seeing how other people do it and you're saying, well, so and so is looking at Instagram on her sofa while she's watching Netflix with her husband. Why can't I? No, if that doesn't work for you, don't do it. Learn to close it up. So in my life, I've had both. I've had where I am nonstop working all the time. And then I've had times where when I had my office upstairs in a bedroom, I I needed this for this time. And I would shut down my computer at 5. I would leave and shut the door
Mhm.
and I would not do any more work. And I would not answer things. And I needed that for my own sanity.
Mhm.
Right now, I'm loving the more fluid integration of all of that
Mhm.
inside my life. I love how I can like take a break for as long as I want. As long as I move that thing in the calendar
Yes.
to the next spot, I'm good to go because I've organized my life. But this took time,
Mhm.
right? And again, don't just because I have a very flexible calendar. This week is not very flexible. I am on screen like 10 times this week. I just added another one. So
Oh my
it's
God.
like, and it's all red. I don't know on my calendar if I cannot move it, I
Mhm.
turn it to red. That means you can't move this thing here, and it's
Oh.
just like red all the way across. And that's cool. That's a thing that happens on occasion. So I know we haven't really stopped to ask if there are any questions, but if you have the questions, you can drop them in there. And I know Daphne has some amazing resources for everyone. That starter kit's amazing if you're interested in being a social media manager. That quick start checklist, did you get that one in there? Because that one's like really awesome.
Yeah, I put that one in and then I'll make sure to update the links just to kind of highlight, but all of the links are in there that you guys can just simply click on each link and download, and
Oh, good.
it's great information.
Yeah, that quick start checklist is what we started with, and it's just like we just spent all day on that. But so definitely get that one. That's a free resource from the school. Social Media Manager School has all sorts of free resources. We have the starter kit. We have the quick start checklist. We have something that we will present later in the week, and that's our pricing guide, the full pricing guide. There's so many things that we give away for free. And, the school is open right now, and Daphne is one of our biggest fans. And so I hope you reach out to her. If you have questions about any of it, that you ask her, because she has all the answers.
Well, I don't know if I have all the answers, but I have a lot of answers. I wanted to throw this out here just because I think it's really good and it tells you about how we're changing. And it's interesting because when I ask my daughter what she wants to be for a living now, she can actually say she wants to be a YouTuber. And it's their generation. So this one is like, or your 5-year-old has expressed that he wants to be a YouTuber. And guess what? Whose job is it to set up the YouTube channel? Whose job is it to optimize the YouTube channel? Whose job is it to make sure that, the SEO is correct, you're using the right tags, you're interacting with people, you're pulling out the links in the description. There's a whole bunch of things that as a 5-year-old, or for my daughter who's 8 years old, she's like, I want to do this and I want to have this kind of background and look at so-and-so.
And in YouTube right now, and everyone should double check this because YouTube changes things all the time. But kids, if there are YouTube channels with kids, YouTube disables comments, so you can't really build a community for a young person on their own channel like that, and that's for safety. And I think that's a really good thing for YouTube to do. So if they want to build community, they'd have to find a different way to do it. But getting up on YouTube is always a fun, creative thing. Kids are very creative, and there's enough gamers out there. So try and dissuade the 5-year-old from being a gamer. But whatever. Those channels are big. They're big right now. I have a 7-year-old grandson. It's okay. You can say it. You're too young for a 7-year-old grandson.
Oh my, a grandchild, Phyllis?
Oh, you're so funny. And his favorite thing to do is to watch YouTube videos where other people are playing the game. Mm-hmm. And those people are particularly skilled in speaking for an hour nonstop about what's happening in the game. Mm-hmm. And for a very brilliant mind, that type of information is satisfying to them. And so that's why it's very attractive, right? It's at a pace that their minds are going at. And so it's a very interesting thing, actually. It's a little side thing here, but it's very interesting.
The other thing that I want to say, because someone, they were mentioning some different toy review sites. So the other thing that you can do, this is just side note, totally has nothing to do with working from home. Well, it does have to do with working from home because you're making those videos at home, right? You can actually have a branded channel, a branded YouTube channel, and then you are the manager of said YouTube channel. So there's a lot about YouTube that you can actually learn in the school, or that you can find someone to teach you or whatever, but definitely there's a lot of stuff, different components when it comes to YouTube. And I would highly recommend a branded channel if anything else. The other question that came up is, where are the links? So if you see the description, it's actually it's in Facebook, in LinkedIn, and in YouTube. There are descriptions. There's a huge description, and the descriptions have the links in there. The only place that does not have the link is Periscope, only because Periscope doesn't allow you to have that huge description box in there. But you can definitely find them in there.
And you can reach out to either one of us, and we're happy to give you any of the links we mentioned today.
Yeah. And I'll do the same thing that I did yesterday. Yesterday, I went back into all of the comments, and I literally responded to each of them personally.
That's great. So what are we talking about tomorrow, Daphne?
What are we talking about tomorrow? Oh, how to start your own business for under $1,500. And I know people are like, $1,500. I wanted to put that number in there for a reason. I know Phyllis kind of fought me on there. She was like, Daphne, that's high. You don't want to scare people. And I don't. But at the same token, I want people to understand that you do want to invest something into your business. And I'm going to talk about different ways that you can invest $1,500 or a lot less to start your own business and to start your business from home. And I will also share with you a way that you could make that money up quickly if you do that. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to also do that is because it's kind of how we started this conversation, which is sometimes people say, I want to build this business. I want to build a telephone business. I'm going to, develop, what is it? What covers for the phones, right? And I'm going to go hire this high end coach because I know that she helps people get to 7 figures. Let me tell you, and this is not to knock anyone's hustle down, but if you just start a business, you do not need a coach that's going to get you to 7 figures if you haven't even made 3 figures. Like, it's just not realistic, right? So I'm not going to tell you to go hire a $25,000 coach. I do believe that $25,000 coaches are beneficial based off of where you are in your journey. So that's important. But when you're starting a business, $1,500 isn't really too bad to invest when you can actually start a business for $2,500 and then pay $25,000 for a high-end coach. It is what.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All of that. And I think it's really important to know realistically where you are on a business journey. And you just kind of have to own up to it. You know what? I'm a newbie. I have no idea what I'm doing. Use those links that we provided in there about those 15 things to do. Just do them step by step by step. Have that done, and then start doing it and learning how to take that quick start checklist, which will help you get your ideas together about how to proceed and to market yourself based on who you are and what it is that you provide. And between those two things, you have a good start. Now, if you've been doing this a while, you already have clients, you already have a business, and you're in the middle of your business journey, then you might be at a place where it's better to have some mastermind. It might be a good place to have a community or a group that you can come to when you have questions. That might be appropriate for where you are right now. And there are lots of those depending on what it is your business is, right? And then as you're building a business, you might find that you need to figure out how to outsource and how to hire a team and how to build your agency. That's a whole other part of that business journey. And there are other resources for you if you're in that spot. And then again, if you've already built a business and you're trying to take it from 6 to 7 figures, then a business coach is really the best way to do that.
And also know that when we said this, we said where you start is not where you will end up. So starting doesn't necessarily mean where you were before you decided to do your business. It could be when you started your business. So you can say, I am going to start my business as a social media manager, right? That's what I'm going to do. I am going to manage people's social media. As I start managing, I'm going to help them market. So now I learned how to do advertising. From that, I'm like, okay, now people are saying, wow, you're doing really great stuff. I want you to train. So you've decided that you are no longer going to manage anymore because it's just too time consuming because you're doing training. So that is also part of your journey. Your journey is not just where things you've done 10 years ago. It's even how your business evolved. So let's say my business is Daphne.com. It is not Daphne.com. But that is the name of my business. And when you first reach me, I am doing this particular set of things. But as my business is evolving and growing, and remember, I'm testing all of these things out. I'm doing them for 6 months to a year. And I realize either I like them, I don't like them, I don't have enough hands in the pot to help me with them. Then I evolve into doing other things. And another great example is like YouTubers. There are some amazing YouTubers out there, and people think that the only business they're in is YouTubing. And then as you get to follow them, you start to realize that their business journey has changed. They started out as a YouTuber. From being a YouTuber, they became a speaker, then a trainer, then a consultant for people who want to develop YouTube channels. So your business is always evolving. That business journey it's always changing. What you are today is not what you're going to be tomorrow or next week or next year, and for those of you who've been doing this for a while, I'd love for you to put a comment when we're over and tell us, hey, this is how I started. We love those kind of stories.
I just wanted to put a pause there because I hope that your husband takes those last 2 minutes that you just told us that and turns it into a video. It was beautifully said.
Oh, thank you.
And every part of that was wonderful. And it's true, thinking about YouTubers, is that they don't depend on AdSense or Google Ads. It's not AdSense, but the whole point is they don't depend on that. They depend on their course creation, their speaking, their training, their consulting, all the things, their merch sales, their all of the things. They are business owners,
Mhm.
right? YouTubers are business owners,
Yep.
and they evolve to that point. So again, you have to start doing the things sequentially. If you just started today and said, I'm going to be on YouTube, I'm going to have merch, I'm going to have course creation, I'm going to consult, I'm going to do, you will not do well, in my opinion,
Mm.
right out of the gate like that. You have to build that up through time. That's just real talk.
Yes, it is. And it breaks you down. Like your mindset, it goes downhill because you're just like, I don't understand. I'm doing all of the things, but you never built an audience. Like no one has seen you yet. And it's okay. Like some people are just now finding out about me. They're like, hey, Daph. Or I have people who've been watching me for a year, 2 years, that they'll come and send. Like that was actually one of my last clients. I attended one of your trainings 2 years ago. No, actually, it was 3 years ago because it was when I was in New York. I was like, holy cow. And I just found I looked really hard to see if I can find you. I don't know if you remember me. I'm like 3 years ago. um, and they hired me to do some work for them. So you just never know. And people are watching you even when you don't think people are watching you.
That's kind of spooky.
Well, but we know it's the truth. You know that.
No,
Like,
it is true. It is very true.
the media on the internet, they're watching.
It's true. It's very true. I have to say that how we've become comfortable with people watching us. Now, back in the 90s, early 2000s, that was a very uncomfortable thought.
Mhm.
And even when people started following people,
Mhm.
it was an uncomfortable thing. Like, why are they following me? Like, it's just like I'm not doing anything, and I just got 100 new followers, and now I feel like all this pressure to produce something, right? So that was the business journey. We evolved from having following be an odd thing to now it being a wonderfully exciting thing that more people are following us. It's a very odd world, yeah?
I remember having like the little follow button on Facebook. I was like, people could just click on follow. I don't know if I want people to follow me. And I remember one of the things that I started was I remember starting a blog. And I remember how I thought it was so strange when people started to put comments on my blog post.
Yeah, like they
And they
read
wanted
it.
me to answer, but it wasn't that they were literally asking me a question. And I was like, what's wrong with them? Like, why would they want to do that? But
So much has changed, eh?
yeah, that's it.
All right. Well,
All right, guys.
I've really enjoyed this. I'm really looking forward to the one tomorrow. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Thank you. And thank you guys so much. We will see you guys tomorrow, same time. Make sure you bring your lunch or coffee or something. I always bring my coffee. And we'll be talking about how to invest into your business and start a business with less than $1,500. Take care, guys. Bye.